The story of a medieval peasant does not begin with a single name or face. It begins with the land, rolling fields wrapped in mist, the quiet breath of dawn drifting over thatched cottages, the smell of damp earth and wood smoke. This is England in the late 14th century, a time when the world still turned to the rhythm of the sun and the seasons. Beyond the stone walls of the manor and the towers of the church lies the village, small, humble, eternal. Here, life is not measured in gold or glory, but in harvests, in survival, in family. Each furrow plowed, each loaf baked, each prayer whispered before sleep, these are the building blocks of life back then. And so we turn our gaze to one such villager. He is not a knight nor a lord. He owns no sword, no fine horse, no title carved in stone. Yet his life, his hands, his toil, and his faith carry the weight of history, the heartbeat of an age. This is a day in his life, a single day, one among thousands that shape the world we've inherited. Dawn. The sky glows pale with the promise of morning. Mist clings to the hedgerows, and the cold bites through the cracks in the wattle and daub walls. Inside a thatched cottage, a peasant stirs from restless sleep. The hearth has long gone cold. The air is heavy with the scent of ash and straw. He rises quietly so as not to wake the others. His wife and children sleep still, huddled beneath coarse wool blankets. A few hens rustle in the corner, feathers soft against the dark. He pulls on his rough tunic, homespun wool, scratchy against his skin, and steps into the chill. The world is silent, save for the distant lowing of cattle and the faint call of a rooster from a nearby yard. Dew pearls on the grass, shining faintly in the half-light. He walks to the well, wooden bucket in hand. The path is muddy, familiar, trodden by bare feet for generations. The water below is cold and dark. The bucket descends with a splash, then rises, dripping and heavy. He carries it home, shoulders bending to the weight. Back inside, his wife has risen. She stokes the embers, coaxing a thin flame from the ashes. The cottage fills again with life, the hiss of kindling, the soft hum of morning voices, the crackle of fire as it takes. She stirs oats into a pot of boiling water, adding a pinch of salt, perhaps a bit of honey if the stores allow. Breakfast is plain: oat porridge, coarse bread from the previous day, a crust dipped in milk. But it is warm, and it is enough. The children eat quietly, rubbing sleep from their eyes. One will help in the garden today, another will gather wood. There is no school to hurry to, no clock to watch, only the rhythm of daylight. Outside, the village stirs. Smoke rises from chimneys. The sound of a blacksmith's hammer echoes faintly in the distance. Dogs bark, geese waddle through puddles. A neighbor waves, a brief greeting before the long day begins. He slings his hoe over his shoulder and steps toward the fields. The world is waking, and with it, the ancient, endless work of the land. Morning. The fields stretch beyond the village, open and brown, broken by hedges and low stone walls. Here the peasant joins others, men and women, young and old, all bound by the same duty, to tend the soil. The earth is damp beneath his feet. He sinks the hoe into the ground, loosening the weeds that choke the barley shoots. Each movement is slow but sure, practiced through years of necessity. the tools of simple, worn smooth by countless hands. The sun climbs, burning off the mist. Birds wheel overhead. The sound of work fills the air, the scrape of iron against soil, the creak of leather, the rustle of wind through stalks. Nearby, the manor reeve passes on horseback, a thin man with a sharp eye. He watches, counts, notes who works and who lags behind. The peasants bow their heads slightly, not out of reverence, but to avoid attention. For though they work this land, it is not theirs. The Lord owns the fields, the forests, the very village in which they sleep. The peasant owes labor to the manor, rent to the steward, and taxes to the king. The rhythm of his life is not chosen, it is dictated. Yet there is a quiet pride here too. When his hoe turns the soil, he knows it will yield food for his family. When his hands are roughed and raw, he feels the proof of his survival etched into his skin. The land may belong to another, but the harvest, the sweat, the labor, the life belong to him. By mid-morning, his wife joins him with a woven basket. Inside are leeks, onions, and a few beans, today's lunch, taken cold in the field. They eat sitting side by side, silent for a while, watching clouds drift. In the distance, church bells ring from the next parish, faint but clear, marking the hour of prayer. He bows his head, crossing himself. Faith is the quiet heartbeat of every peasant day, not for grandeur or philosophy, but for endurance. He does not question why he works or why life is hard. He believes because belief brings order to the struggle. The bells fade. He rises again, returns to his task. The field stretches endless before him, a sea of earth waiting to be tamed. The work will go on until the light begins to fade. But the sun is kind today. A soft breeze stirs the crops, and the world feels, for a moment, balanced. Midday. The sun stands high, casting hard shadows across the furrows. The heat presses down, and the air hums with the sound of insects. He wipes sweat from his brow, dirt streaking across his face. Around him, others pause to rest under the hedgerow. They share water from leather flasks, break small loaves of bread, eat cheese wrapped in cloth. Children run through the grass, chasing each other between rows of wheat. A dog barks at crows circling overhead. Midday is brief respite, the only time the body can still and breathe. Laughter bubbles softly from the workers, quiet stories told between mouthfuls. Tales of a good harvest, of a newborn calf, of someone's dollar soon to marry. Small joys, simple and steady. He leans back against the earth, eyes half closed. The smell of soil fills his lungs, heavy, living, honest. This is the center of his world, not the manor, not the king's distant wars, not the bustling towns, but this patch of England beneath his hands. Beyond the village, the woods whisper. Inside there is game, rabbits, sometimes deer, but to hunt without permission is to risk the Lord's wrath. So he stays within the bounds he knows, within the reach of the church bell and the sight of his fields. As the afternoon deepens, he returns to work. The light grows warmer, the shadows longer. The oxen drag the plow through the soil, their breath heavy and rhythmic. He follows, guiding the blade, feeling it cut into the earth like memory. Each furrow is a promise that tomorrow, next week, next year, life will continue. At times the labor feels endless, but then he glances up and the sight of the village, the thatched roofs, the curling smoke, and the cry of a child carried on the wind reminds him why he endures. This is his world, his history, his home. Evening. The sun dips lower, spilling gold across the thatch and fields. Shadows stretch long and thin, reaching toward the forest's edge. A bell rings faintly from the village church, the signal that the day's labor is done. He straightens slowly, his back stiff, hands caked with earth. The hoe rests beside him, blade dulled by honest work. He stands for a moment, watching the last light flicker over the crops, barley and rye glinting like fire. There is beauty here, even in exhaustion. The walk home is quiet. The village hums with the gentle rhythm of evening. Doors creak open, fires are rekindled. Laughter drifts from the lane. The smell of wood smoke and boiling stew thickens the air. Inside his cottage, the hearth crackles to life again. His wife stirs a pot over the flame, turnips, onions, perhaps a bit of salted pork saved from winter stores. The children chatter softly, seated on the floor with wooden cups of water or ale. He sits by the hearth and stretches his legs toward the fire and breathes deeply. The warmth seeps into his bones, easing the ache of the day. There are no clocks to tell the time, but he knows by the color of the light that night is near. Dinner is simple but cherished. A thick stew ladled into rough earthen bowls, eaten with chunks of bread torn by hand. Sometimes, if fortune smiles, a wedge of cheese or a small piece of fruit sweetens the meal. They eat in companionable silence, the only sound of the crackle of wood and the hiss of boiling water. Outside, the village settles. Dogs bark, a baby cries somewhere down the lane. The distant toll of vespers carries through the dark. The smell of peat and smoke drifts through the window, mingling with the scent of stew and ash. After the meal, he steps outside once more. The sky above the village glows deep amber, fading into indigo. The first stars appear, faint sparks scattered across the vast, unpolluted dark. He listens to the sounds of the night beginning, the hoot of an owl, the murmur of a nearby brook, the soft rustle of the breeze through barley. This is the hour of rest, yet still there is work to do. The animals must be checked, the cow milked, the goat tethered, the hens gathered into their coop. He moves among them gently, speaking softly as if they could understand. They are not pets, but they are life, warmth, food, continuity. When all is settled, he returns to the cottage. His wife is mending a tear in her apron. The children doze near the fire. He sits down beside her. They speak quietly of tomorrow's weather, of the manners reeve, of the gossip from market day. Their words are few, but their silence is familiar, steady, and full. Outside, the last of the light slips behind the trees. Within, the world grows small and safe.
Night. Darkness gathers thick and soft, cloaking the village in quiet. The only light now comes from the glowing hearth and a tallow candle flickering on the table. The walls of the cottage seem to breathe with the wind, wood and thatch settling into the hush of evening. He kneels beside the bed of straw and whispers a short prayer for health, for harvest, for the souls of those who did not live to see another dawn. Faith is not a luxury here, it is a necessity. as vital as bread. He makes the sign of the cross and lies down, pulling the rough blanket to his chest. The children curl beside each other near the embers. The fire has burned low, casting red veins of light across the floor. The dog, half shepherd, half stray, sighs and settles by the door, ears twitching to every sound beyond. Outside, the night belongs to creatures unseen, foxes moving through the hedges, owls swooping silently above, perhaps even a deer stepping softly through the mist. The village sleeps, but the earth never truly does. He dreams, as all peasants dream, not of riches or kings, but of rain when the fields are dry, of bread that does not run out, of his children growing strong. Dreams woven from hope and hunger alike. And in this simple rest, the story of an entire age breathes on. Reflections. When dawn returns, as it always does, the peasant will rise again. The same field, the same tools, the same rhythm waiting beyond the door. Yet within that sameness lies a quiet greatness. History often remembers the few who ruled, kings, lords, bishops, but the world was built upon the hands of the many who did not. The nameless laborers, the humble families, the unseen lives that turned the soil and kept the fires burning. They asked for little, only enough to live, enough to see another harvest. And in their perseverance, they forged to civilization. Every castle stone, every church tower, every cobbled street owes something to them, to the steady heartbeat of the common people. Their legacy is not written in books or carved in marble. It lingers instead in the landscape, in the winding lanes that still trace their fields, in the ancient hedgerows that once bordered their crops, in the quiet villages that still wake to the same soft English light. To walk in their footsteps, even for a day, is to glimpse the foundation of who we are. Their lives remind us that history is not made only by the powerful, but by those who endure. And so, as the night fades and the first birds stir once more, the peasant's day begins again. One dawn among 1,000, one story among millions, a single heartbeat in the long memory of time. This was a day back then.